I'm Charlotte and this is Tired Mama Tries to Read. So I know I keep saying it, but this is the last book haul of 2018, okay? I have to do this for my family. We're gonna be evicted if I keep spending this much money on books. It's really bad. Some of these are secondhand. I'm gonna try and whip through them because by just a rough look, I think there's about 10. This is not secondhand, it's brand new and it's beautiful, and it's Orchid and the Wasp by, I think it's Caoilinn Hughes. This is an Irish name. And I saw this, I think somewhere on the internet, I can't even remember where now. Is it on some kind of nomination list? But it just, the cover's beautiful, and I couldn't get much of what the story was actually about. It says in the highlights, an unforgettable young woman navigates Dublin, London and New York, striving to build a life raft for her loved ones in the midst of economic and familial collapse. So it doesn't really give a lot of way. It kind of says how she starts in Dublin, there's an economic crash, she goes to London, then she moves to New York, and it says as well that it's about gigantic ambition, social upheaval, that it chews through sexuality, class and politics, and crackles with joyful anarchic fury. Anything with anarchic fury is fine by me. So there's that. This one looks awesome. This is Red Clocks by Leni Zumas. This is about, well, the cover says it's about 5 women, but I am starting to wonder whether that's a typo, because in the inside jacket it lists 4, and I've had a quick scan of the chapters that are listed by the women and I can only count 4. So I'm guessing there must be another woman in there somewhere. Otherwise, someone at Borough Press dropped the ball. This is a really interesting dystopia. This is about a place where abortion is legal in America, in vitro fertilization is banned, and the Personhood Amendment grants rights of life, liberty and property to every embryo. So there's 4 different women that are trying to navigate within that world. A frightening world. I'm not American, but I try and keep up to date with the ongoing infringements upon women's right to their own bodily autonomy and the whole Planned Parenthood, you know, stuff that's gone on over with you guys. So I am interested to read that. I think that'll be really good. Then I picked up a copy of Vanity Fair. I could easily have got this secondhand because it's bound to be in every charity shop in the land, but I bought it new because I'm naughty. And I saw the BBC, is it the BBC? No, it's the ITV. So I don't know if you get anything like ITV in America. I know a lot of you guys that subscribe are from America, so I'm sorry. But there's a new ITV version which you may be able to download or at least buy on DVD, and it is the bee's knees. It's so good. I hate Becky Sharp. I've not read Vanity Fair, but I've watched a few clips from like the Reese Witherspoon film and stuff like that. And I've always found her just so obnoxious, and I've never got her. I know she's meant to be obnoxious. I know she's meant to be selfish. But I just was like, well, I'm not interested in reading about someone like that. But the adaptation I watched was so good. I mean, she's still all of those things, but it's just done with so much wit, you know, and it's a little bit adventurous. She does things like she looks at the camera and she winks and stuff like that. And they've got modern music like Kate Bush and things like that as part of the music score. So it just really, really worked for me. So I was intrigued to read it, and I kind of liked, now I've got to the very end, I did like how it ended. I've never really known how it ended because I've always been put off by Becky. So now I'm going to give it a go. This is a second-hand book. This is Margaret Atwood's Dancing Girls, and it's a nice vintage Virago classic. Basically, whenever I see a green spine in a bookshop, I do tend to buy it. It's one, I don't collect much else. I used to collect so many different types of books like the Orange Penguins and stuff like that. I don't do that anymore, but I do collect the vintage green ones. And this is short stories, and the back says pregnant women, students and journalists, farmers, birdwatchers, ex-wives, adolescent lovers and dancing girls. And this is about mapping human motivation. Also secondhand were stories of motherhood with a nice little tea stain mark where someone's put their cup and I haven't removed it yet. There's obviously going to be some Japanese ones as well, which is awesome. So this seems to cover quite a few writers that I already know. Amy Tan, Alice Munro, Lydia Davis, Laurie Moore, Louise Erdrich. Always happy to see her name in a book of collected stories. I got The Night Waking. Now, somebody, and I'm mortified that I haven't written your name down, somebody in the comments mentioned that I should read this, and thank you so, so much, because it looks right up my street. So this is about a woman who hasn't slept for a long, long time because her children, just 2 small children, and one of them doesn't sleep. She's also trying to write a book. She's a historian, and she's stranded on a Hebridean island where her husband is researching the puffins. She works when her son, when she's working, her son finds a baby skeleton buried in the garden. Now, I do have issues with babies and children dying, as I've said in other videos. It's, I know, you know, that it's fiction, etc., and to maybe sort of toughen up a little bit, but it just makes me, when you've got anxiety and you imagine the deaths of everybody that you know many times over in one day, reading about death, especially if a small person, can be quite stressful. But I think this is going to be worth it. It seems to be all sort of tied up with motherhood, so I'm assuming Sarah Moss will do it quite sensitively. So I got it. Thank you for the recommendation. I did buy that because you told me to, and I'm hoping I'm going to really love it. Then I also got Louise Erdrich's Future Home of the Living God, which is looks like a really interesting dystopia. This goes way off what she normally writes. She's written the North Dakota Saga, which I have read and written about extensively. I love it. Yeah, she's one of my favourite authors. And this is probably one of the only ones I haven't read. So this is about evolution stopping as mysteriously as it began, and the implications that it has upon humankind, and how people start to become terrified that humanity is basically going to die out. And this is one woman's journey, Cedar Hawk Songmaker, who is pregnant, and she is trying to find out about her birth mother, who is, I believe she's a Ojibwe, yeah, Mary Potts, an Ojibwe living on the reservation. So she wants to understand her origins. I think that's going to combine loads of really interesting issues. This was secondhand, and this is all for Sian from Shani Reads. I know your love of this man who I never can pronounce. Is it Knausgaard? I don't know. But if you guys have read, I know that Sian loves this series. I've been put off by it because it just looks so kind of like, I don't know, manly. And I don't know why that puts me off, but it just does. It looks true crimey, which is another thing that would put me off. But I've heard so much about it. And the fact that Zadie Smith says on the front that it's completely blown her mind, that is kind of a seller. So I got this for a couple of quid in Oxfam Bookshop. And I'm going to do it. I'm going to fall down that rabbit hole. I also found this, Doris Lessing's The Cleft, which I've wanted forever, and that was a couple of quid too. So the story of The Cleft is that there's a society of women, only women, I think they're on an island, perhaps, and then suddenly there's an unheralded birth of a strange new child, a boy, and the harmony of their sexless community is suddenly thrown into jeopardy. So I seem to have a lot in here that's about dystopias, about motherhood, about birth and stuff like that. So I kind of need to read these books all together. Last book was a brand new one, and I heard about this from Mercedes from Mercy Reads. Thank you so much for sharing this. As soon as you said Welsh, I was like, oh, what? There's a Welsh book that I haven't heard of. Awesome. Deborah Kay Davies. I have heard of her. I don't actually have her book, which is something like, is it called Laszlo? Tamar and Grace Tamar and Laszlo the Beautiful, and I should have read it and I should own it because it won like a million things and was praised as one of the best works of fiction coming out of Wales at the time. This is her latest one, Tirzah, I think it's pronounced Tirzah, and the Prince of Crows. So this is loosely based on Welsh, or drawing on Welsh mythology, set in a remote valley in the 70s. I think that would be quite cool because I've just read Milkman, which is set in Ireland in the 70s, so to sort of contrast over to Wales would be interesting. And it's about Tirzah, who is 16, pretty, witty and wise, and she's brought up in a religious family, and then she meets a boy, and it's all about trying to find freedom from within. That does look really good. I'm not a massive fan of the cover, and neither was Mercedes. I do think it is a little bit too clashy. Who did it? One World. Yeah, I think it might have tiny change of colour scheme, but I can see what they were trying to do. So yeah, that's it. I must be up to my 10 minutes. I usually try and set myself 10 minutes for all my videos, so I'm going to stop. But those are my naughty book hauls. It's not happening again, people. If you see me showing a video with the word book haul in, just don't even watch it. If my views go down, then I might stop buying books. If my last book haul video is like one of the most views I've ever had, so I blame all of you for this. Okay, I'm done. I hope you are managing to buy lovely books but not go too overboard, and that you're having a good week, and I will see you soon. Bye.